So, good morning, everyone. This is Being Your Own CEO, our weekly hangout. And I'm receiving a little bit of feedback from our participants around the concept of a mastermind. And so we've been chatting about what we might refer to this group, how we might refer to this group. One suggestion was a knowledge circle. I was suggesting that maybe we refer to it as a success circle. It certainly is. The purpose of our group is to share and support one another, give each other feedback, which I got some this morning, which I thank Cheryl and Larry for. So the idea is that we're here. We meet periodically, once a week, I guess, is more specific, to just share what we're learning, what we want to know, what if any business issues that we might have. This is for solo entrepreneurs who tend to be somewhat isolated, sitting home in front of their computers often. And so this is a way to make connections and build relationships as well. So I want to welcome our participants here this morning and invite them to introduce themselves. So on the right-hand side this morning, Nathan, how would you like to introduce yourself? You may be muted, Nathan. Okay, Nathan is not responding, so let's go to Larry. Want to introduce yourself this morning?
Sure. My name's Larry Earnhardt. I'm a business coach and consultant. The name of my business is Alchemy Business Consulting. I also teach at a university. I teach online business classes, and I'm an author, speaker, and what I like to do is help people to make their businesses as profitable as possible.
Aha. And you have several books. We know that there's a few of them out there.
There's a couple books out there, yep. One's called The Profit Machine, obviously.
Yeah. So. Right on. So welcome. I'm knocking things over madly here. So, Craig, can you join us and introduce yourself?
Certainly. I'm located in Western New York, right outside of Rochester, New York. It's about 3 hours to Toronto, so I know you guys some of you are Canadian.
I think we all are.
Long way from Toronto.
Not too far from the northern climes. So I've been learning website creation and doing some affiliate marketing, and I have a local directory that I've created, and I'm working on bringing in people to my directory and helping local businesses get moving.
Well, that sounds interesting. I'd like to. We'll want to hear some more about that.
Okay.
So, I see that Jay has joined us. You're unmuted now. Do you want to introduce yourself, Jay?
Sure. Hi, my name is Jay, and my company is Affiliate Resources Incorporated, and I help people learn how to get started with the online world of internet marketing.
Right on. We were afraid you weren't going to make it this morning.
I had some prior obligations. I was just doing a bunch of things there. Managed to douse some fires and push the alligators down, so I'm good to go.
Life does happen, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
And Cheryl, how would you like to introduce yourself?
Well, there's many ways I could do it, but for the safety of everybody, I'll just say hi. I'm Cheryl Ann Webster. My business is art and speaking. I blend the arts and visual approach to expressing our feelings and getting messages across to the world. So I have an exhibit that tours around, and I give very highly interactive, crazy workshops to especially women and girls. That's
Right.
what it does.
And I might say to everyone, I have participated in one of Cheryl Ann's interactive workshops and thoroughly enjoyed it and got lots out of it. So I highly recommend it.
Thank you.
So I think our friend Nathan is maybe having some bandwidth problems or something, and Craig did say that he was too. So he was going to try to shut off his video to conserve that so he can participate. So, and last but not least, I think I might like to introduce my business, Work-Style Lifestyle Coaching. And in that work, I like to help solo entrepreneurs find direction and stay motivated and develop systems that support and promote their business. And a couple of things that I've been working on and I really like introducing to people is this: being your own CEO every Tuesday morning. And I'm thinking seriously of creating a community, a Google Plus community that will support what we're doing here, and hoping that everybody will join in. The other thing that I like to do is a 3-part course called Beginners Google for Business, and that's more of a hand-holding thing. And my plan is to do something that's a little bit more accessible online in relation to that. Up till now, I've just been doing it face-to-face and in person. So, yeah. So it's been for me. It's a time of a little bit of refocusing, I think. So stay tuned. So this morning we had a topic, but I would really like to hear a little bit more about this local directory idea that Craig is working on. How would you like to tell us a little bit more about that before we get into any other topics, Craig?
Well, essentially, and thank you, Jay, for the idea. I've gone out to I've gathered all my local business types here, and created a website for it, and I set up a subscription model where the businesses pay a certain amount to be listed on the. They can get 2 levels. They can get a free listing, which is just the name, address, and phone number, and its contact information, and people seem to like that. And if they want, they can subscribe, and then they get an enhanced listing on the page, and they get their logo plastered around, and they get a month of front page introduction to everyone, to the people that come and visit the site, and so that seems to be pretty well received.
Mm. And so, but basically, you're focusing on your local business.
Yes, just my local municipality. We're a satellite of Rochester, New York, so we're kind of where the New York State Thruway and the feeder from Rochester meet. So, and we're kind of, they call us the gateway to the Finger Lakes, because everybody comes out of Rochester and goes down to the wonderful Finger Lakes that we have, and all that vacation paradise. It's a beautiful area, and so a lot of people go through town, but not often do people stop. So we're trying to help the businesses get visibility and get people to stay for a little while.
Craig, you should mention how you got a surge of traffic to your site by writing some content based around. I know there's like some sort of municipality change you mentioned.
Oh, well, we have a development that's going in, and or they're trying to get it. We'll fight to the nail to keep it from happening. But it's it's a hot button topic in town here, and the first or second time that I posted about it, I think I got 40% of the town's 40% of the residents viewed my site, so that was about that was close to 4,000 people.
Perfect.
So that was a very nice hit, and it got my site on everybody's radar, and that was a wonderful thing.
Mm. Oh, so that's just that sounds like it's a little bit like I mean, you've got the opportunity to create awareness of all the things that local businesses can do to attract more people to stay or to stop on their way through.
That's what we're hoping, is just to get people to linger for a little.
Right on.
Now, we do have a similar thing here, of course. I'm not sure if our local folk are aware of that, but we have Downtown and Around magazine, as well as a few other different outlets to create an online directory and keep that buzz going. And definitely the content is what's bringing people back to it, because otherwise a directory is no more than a yellow pages if it just sits on the shelf. But having that content and reasons for people to keep revisiting, and guest bloggers and such like.
Mm-hmm.
Good luck. It sounds like a great idea for your community.
Right on. So before we get into a topic, did anybody have anything in particular that they wanted to raise this morning before we move on to something more specific?
I just heard this morning, for those of you who are Canadian, our tax deadline has been extended to May 5th.
Yes.
Why?
Human error. Human CRA error.
Yeah,
they had a big shutdown early in tax season. The whole network shut down.
Yeah.
It's a slow day for CRA. I get it.
Yeah, someone tripped over a cable.
But if you owe money, I think it's you still have to pay it by the 30th.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I've never heard of either U.S. or Canada delaying that part of the. It's just filing your taxes.
Yeah. The announcement said that there would be no penalties for filing after the 30th.
Okay.
And before the 5th.
Hey, do we get a bonus if we did it on time?
I was thinking the same thing. I had mine done ages ago.
Yes,
a balloon or a lollipop or something, right?
Yeah, exactly. I want my gold star.
Boy, it sure did feel good to have that off the plate, though.
Yeah.
Just get that out of the way. Anything else from anyone? Nathan, I think you may be having some technical difficulties there. When I asked you to introduce yourself, there was no response.
You were gone.
Now my computer froze, and I've been having internet trouble here. It's I'm not sure if it's because I just put a proxy on my browser, or whether it's to do with the internet. But it just slowed. It just froze.
Proxy will do it.
It's because you live in paradise.
I'm thinking of getting rid of it because I've noticed a noticeable lag in the browsing. The idea of the proxy was to make things more accessible, but it's actually slowed my connection down.
Yeah.
I'm not
the
very
internet
happy.
connection to the proxy is probably fast, but then once you hit the proxy, you have no control over the speed that returns the information that it returns.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to write to them about this, but if it doesn't change pretty soon, I'm just going to dump it and go back to what I had.
Right. So would somebody like to explain why you would want to have a proxy?
Privacy.
Yeah, so a proxy is basically, like for example, with Nathan's situation where he's in Mexico, when he's online, he has an IP address that says he's physically located in Mexico. So there may be restrictions in terms of accessing certain websites and whatnot. And what a proxy does is one of the things that a proxy can do is change his IP address so that it says that he's from Canada, So with the because IP addresses have physical locations. Oh, Canadian, Russia, U.S., et cetera, et cetera. So, and there's a variety of reasons why people want to have proxies. You know, one would be if you want to access, if you're a Canadian on Canadian soil, you want to access Netflix U.S. service or iTunes U.S. service, then you can use a proxy.
Yeah.
So, you know, amongst other, like I use a proxy on occasion to have my search when I do keyword research. If I want to physically be in the U.S., I use a proxy. I use a U.S. IP address so that I can get results as if I'm located at a specific area.
Right on. Yes, I remember trying that, something similar to that at one stage of the game to get access to American Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
And it slowed my system down so badly, I just dumped it. Yeah. No time to sit and wait for everything to load, etc. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this morning, actually last week, we I think it was while we were still in the green room, after the end of the broadcast, we were chatting and decided that it might be interesting for us to explore the whole concept of mobile devices and the impact that it might have. And I think that what spawned that idea was that we had been speaking about Google's new approach, where if your website is not responsive or mobile friendly, that any searches on mobile would just drop you right to the very bottom.
Yeah.
And so we were chatting about that, but so we decided that it might be fun to have a conversation this morning about mobile. How does the mobile world affect our business, and how can we make better use of it? So, you know what I did last night is I sat down and made a list of all the things that I am able to do using my mobile. And I'm not gonna recite it to you, but I can tell you that I came up with 21 activities.
All right.
That I am currently using my mobile for.
Mm-hmm.
Not all of them were 100% business oriented. Some of them were sort of more personal. When I say more personal, well, if I'm out and about and I'm looking for a specific kind of restaurant, or if I'm out and about and I want to know what's on at the movies, that kind of thing. But a lot of the things that I did list were business oriented. And I've heard myself say many, many, many times, I couldn't function. I couldn't do all the things that I do without it.
Mm-hmm.
So let's hear what the rest of you, what's your experience? How does mobile affect the way you work and the way you're able to work?
For me, probably the number one thing that has changed for my business, for my local marketing business, is having the ability to physically go to a client and swipe their credit card on my phone with a little extension, and so they can pay their bill with their credit card in front of me versus having them do it online. It has been a wonderful convenience. There's a little thing called Square, and they send you a little, it's an app, and then it's a little extension that goes into your head jack port on your phone, your mobile device, and it has a little slot, and it's a card swiper.
Mm-hmm.
So you can set your billing rate, and then you say, okay, here, go ahead and swipe it, and whoosh, and then the transaction goes, and then they can sign it with their finger.
Yes.
And then boom, the money goes off, and you get your money the next day, the next business day.
And is it more expensive than, say, PayPal?
No, it's actually they're about the same. It's actually a little bit cheaper depending on the volume of transactions that you use, but it's more convenient. So for me, it's way more convenient. For the client, it's way more convenient because I find that a lot of people have once upon a time had PayPal accounts and they've lost their emails or for whatever reason, and they always have issues trying to pay with PayPal, right? What a lot of people don't know is that you don't need to have a PayPal account to pay a bill with PayPal, right? So the other thing is being able to update my accounting software, which is I use FreshBooks, and they have a mobile app, so that payment and that information goes right into the FreshBooks, and then I can send them a receipt right away. And it automatically says that it's been paid, so it's wonderful.
That's a piece I didn't know about it. I knew about Square, and I've actually used it, or somebody else used it for me. I think it was Cheryl Ann, actually.
And it worked. Well, it sort of worked.
Well, it worked for me as a consumer.
Yeah, sometimes the swipe action is a bit of a problem, but you can type the numbers in, which I think I ended up doing. I think it's just my swiping technique is not perfected yet.
But what I didn't know is that it connects with FreshBooks.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if it will connect with QuickBooks.
I'm not sure. If it can connect with FreshBooks, I don't see any rhyme or reason why. It would actually be QuickBooks that would be required to get their FreshBooks' code structure to implement it into their system.
Mm. So, and I guess I was kind of a little bit hesitant because I've had a merchant account in the past, and for a small practitioner like myself, I discovered there weren't enough entries to. I mean, I was paying just the very top fee because I didn't have the volume.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I was thinking that Square would be very similar to those credit card merchant accounts. So
it's more friendly than that. Square, if you're not using it, it just sits there.
There's no monthly fee. It's only a transactional fee.
And they have invoicing programs and so on. I mean, there's other ones out there, but I really like Square. I've used it for a long time, and specifically for clients online as well, because I still take their credit card over the phone, and so I don't have to worry before we do a coaching session, have they paid, haven't they paid. We log on 10 minutes early, we get the transaction done, and move on. So for somebody like me who doesn't like asking for money, I'd rather that just happen automatically. Square's great for that.
So what you're saying is you go on and enter their credit card information. So normally the way I work is using an invoice, and the person pays the invoice, and you can do that with PayPal. You can send an invoice.
Yeah, you can do that with Square also, because you can send an invoice right from their website to your client.
That's what I wanted to know. That's really useful to know.
Mm-hmm.
I just find for some people it's a lot better to send them a receipt rather than an invoice, because the invoice might sit there for a while. But and if they're like me and they have to write out a check and find one of those things called an envelope and a stamp, it's going to take them a while. So this way, it's all done and dusted in 2 seconds. It's over and done with. And as Jay says there, you can email their receipt or text their receipt immediately. So it's very helpful. I was going to say a couple of other things I use mine for, though, because it seems that Jay and I are similar. I do my own books and my husband's books through FreshBooks. And for him, invoicing, he needs to have a photograph of each receipt, so you can do that all from your phone. So literally, as you're finishing up your meal and paying your bill, you photograph the receipt, and it's already in FreshBooks. Yeah. For me, I use my mobile for just about everything. So when I'm traveling, especially for speaking engagements, it's mostly only my iPad and my phone, and Square, of course. But the best thing I found for this lately is using it as a remote control. And so I've seen other cell phones. In fact, I've seen Larry's cell phone with a remote as well. For me, what I like about using an iPhone for is it splits the screen and you have the slide you're on and the one you're coming to. and just with a swipe you can move them. And you can be 200 feet away from your laptop. So for some of the engagements I do where there's 500 teenagers in the room that I have to keep engaged for 5 hours, I need to be around the room, moving, dancing about, being silly. I can't worry about did I click the right button. It's just a matter of swipe it backwards and forwards and the slides advance.
So you're referring to like a PowerPoint presentation or slides where you're...
Oh, I think my ear just hurt. You mean Keynote?
I was speaking common lingo for everyone else who wouldn't understand.
Those PowerPoint kind of presentations, yes. And of course with Keynote you can have your video embedded straight in it. You don't have to leave the program and go back and do all those tricks.
Yeah.
So I can ignore my setup once it's done.
Yeah.
And for the duration of the workshop I'm moving around the room and only have this in my hand.
Mm-hmm.
It's yummy. I mean, there's tons of things I use my phone and iPad for, but they're the things that I love the most.
So, Cheryl Ann, using it as a remote control, do you get an app for that, or exactly how does that work?
Yes, there's an app for it. It's called, the one I use because I'm all Mac, is Keynote, and it's called Keynote Remote here and Keynote on your laptop. I have other devices for advancing slides, including a wristband, the Myo. Yeah.
Whoa!
So I can advance them. It's fairly new. This is the first run, and I'm love you, Myo, but not quite there yet. So I feel much more trusted with myself, and that I can see the slides on there. So that really helps me if I'm. But yes, it's an app on my phone. It connects to my laptop, and it talks to it wirelessly, and it's easy. There's no setup involved other than pushing buttons.
Okay, so does anybody have an alternative for PCs?
Yeah, I use one called Show Director. That's for PCs. It's very similar to the one Cheryl Ann's talking about, and it's pretty cool. It once you have it synced up, it'll show the slide. You just thumb it back and forth, so I hold it in my hand and I'll just use my thumb to move the slides back and forth, and you can look at your notes if you want instead of the slides, that sort of thing.
Wow.
Of course, it's sort of weird to be looking at your phone instead of the audience, but
that's right. So, Larry, would that connect up with a Google presentation, for example?
that I don't know. It's designed for PowerPoint.
Oh.
So it's a PowerPoint presenter.
Okay. So that's really really useful for people to know that they can make use of that in their speaking. I love that.
And of course, you can project straight from a tablet too. So it's a similar thing, except the VGA cable goes straight in here, and you don't need to. I haven't actually taken that plunge yet, normally because my workshops are 5 hours, and there's only one adapter, so once it's in, there's no way of powering it up at the same time. So I like all my backups, but if I'm doing if we're meeting for coffee and having a chat, then I might show you a slideshow on there just informally, or show you my images or videos, that kind of thing. So it is my mobile office, but I haven't quite taken the plunge of presenting to an audience, a big audience with my iPad.
So there's two really useful applications. Nathan, do you use a mobile at all?
That would be a bit of an understatement. I've been writing about it extensively for a number of years. I've written use of different programs. I've built sites to do with mobile. For like, if you were to look at Willie's Bakery downtown Victoria, I built their mobile site. Another one I did was for. It's changed now, but it was for BC Golf Safaris, and at the time they wanted all these custom pages, and I custom programmed about 31 custom mobile pages to do with this. I created a hybrid mobile site for them, so very familiar with mobile, done a ton of work on it. So,
How do you make use of a mobile?
Well, actually, most recently, like with this little phone here, I was asked to submit a whole bunch of sites to this outfit I'm working for, and one of the things I had to do was figure out if they had a mobile presence. So what I would have to do is call up every single site that I was looking at on my mobile phone to see if they actually had a mobile site. And you
Okay.
can tell really quickly whether they do, whether it's optimized or not. Because quite often, if it's optimized, you'll see a little title bar across the top where you can actually read it, but there will also be some sort of drop-down menu where you can see the drop-down, and everything will fit very nicely onto the mobile interface. And quite a few of the sites were set up like that. Some of them weren't. But that was a really fast way for me to find out.
One of the things that happened to me, actually it was maybe the day after Google's big announcement of today's the deadline. I think it was maybe a day and not more than 2 days afterward. My friend and I were having coffee after a walk, and she was kind of thinking, that Google was being a little bit harsh and, saying that there was a deadline, etc., etc. However, the two of us were decided that we would go use our phones to look for something. She was headed out on a trip to look for a certain kind of knapsack. So we started Googling on using our phones, and both of us were blown away at how all of a sudden things had changed really quickly and for the better. And we actually tested out and went and looked at government sites, for example, because I don't know what it's like in the U.S., but here our government sites are probably the worst websites you could ever visit. Not user friendly, visually awful, just awful. So we kind of thought that if we tried to visit one of those from our phones, we would see a mess. And lo and behold, we didn't. It was fine. It was even better than I've ever seen it on my desktop. So that was amazing. So I think by Google making the announcement that they did, I think that a lot of people got off their procrastination and did the things that they needed to do very quickly. So another item that I might like to mention that I use a lot from a business perspective is an app called Evernote. Anybody here use Evernote? Yeah, Jay says he does.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that I've never really used it. I've had it on my devices for ages, but for some reason haven't really given it the time of day. So tell me it's worth it.
It is worth it. First of all, I mean you can use it on whatever device you happen to be working on, and they're all synced back and forth. So it's in the cloud, and it works really well that way. But it's for, if you find something online that you're going to want to find again later, you can download an app for your Chrome, for example. It's called Evernote Clipper, and so it will you can choose that, and it will automatically save something to whatever board that you happen to want it to go to in your Evernote. So there are all kinds of ways to make use of it. The one that works really well for me is, like, I'm not very good at typing on my smartphone. I keep saying my fingers are too fat. So I've been using the voice to text. There's a little app within Evernote, and you just use voice to text. So if there's something that you can be meeting somebody and they'll mention something, and you'll think to yourself, I want to remember to go back to that, or I want to go find that, or I want to make use of that, or whatever. So I just open up Evernote and put a voice to text in and file it in whatever way is appropriate. So that's like, it's just a godsend. So I use it for my contracts that I do. I use it for timekeeping. I use it for taking notes in a seminar. I'm going to be going to the social media camp later in May, and you can just sit down with a keyboard and take notes, and in it goes, and it's there. And I mean, there's just innumerable ways to make use of Evernote. Jay, how do you use Evernote?
I primarily for article research. So when I'm doing research for articles, I'll use the snippet feature and just kind of draw that kind of curation tool where you can take a screenshot of a particular element on a site, so that I can take all my notes and then use that and read it and then just start to write my article. Or I also do webinars every Friday, and we'll use those for my own notes as well. So it's a great little tool.
Yeah. I must, for any of our viewers out there, I might point you to Dotto, Steve Dotto. He has a lot of really nice little videos on how to make use of Evernote in a very constructive way.
Mm-hmm.
So, so I mean, we could go on and on with the different apps that we use, but I would really like us to kind of consider a little bit how does all this mobile stuff, how is it going to affect our business other than convenience? I mean, we know that there are some conveniences in there, but what other effects do you think there will be?
I've been looking at it the other way round. Is more a matter of how is the mobile going to benefit my client. So it's okay how I'm using it, but what can I do that my clients can really enjoy the mobile experience? And one of the ways for me is to have QR codes on my sculptures. My sculptures aren't for sale, they tour around, but there's a story behind each one, and there's 120 of them. So we've found over the years that people can't read the stories because there's a crowd around one sculpture and you can't get there. We've tried making the stories really big, and they're bigger than the sculptures. And now what we're working towards is having a QR code, or even just augmented reality, where you put your mobile phone over the sculpture so you can be at a distance, almost like taking a picture. It's taking a picture that will then retrieve information. So we'll have an audio recording of the story. We'll also have a text of the story and another image of the sculpture in case you can't see it because of the crowd. So for me, it's sort of trying to think of it that way round. How can we really tap into this wonderful technology, knowing full well that our clients, most of them, no matter what age, have a mobile device in their hands when they're retrieving our services. So,
yeah, that's a good idea. I mean, what you can do with the QR codes are great because you can send them to any link, right? So in the case that you're speaking of, you can have a QR code at your sculpture, and then someone hits that QR code with their phone, and that can send them to a podcast, which is the basically an audio version of like a webinar, if you will, where it tells you the story, right? So I think that's what I would do in that situation, because then podcasts are free. So.
Actually, the first time I saw that being used was at the art gallery downtown for Robert Bateman.
Mm-hmm.
When you go through there, there's a QR code beside every one of his paintings.
Mm-hmm.
And you get to go in and hear him describe, what his inspiration was and a little bit about his technique or whatever. Boy, that was fun. That was really fun. Yeah. So I like the way you turned that around, Cheryl. To think about it, how can we make use of this in relation to our clients? How can we make their experience better? And I hadn't sort of thought about it from that angle. And it might be worthy of even a whole other session for us to think about it from that angle. Because I think you know, from the perspective of our businesses, how is it going to affect us? That's where we started. We talked about convenience and little tools that make life easier, but I must admit I'm not really clear about. I suppose it's because it's going so fast that you don't know where it's going to end up, and so you end up with such kind of questions. Craig, what about you? Are you making use of mobile within your new application, et cetera, et cetera?
I have, well, my website, of course, is mobile friendly. It's been mobile friendly since the beginning, and that seems to make a pretty good dent. I have about 30% of my traffic is accessing it via mobile. What I have done, though, in a couple of cases with clients is I've taken their websites from desktop only, or desktop with really poor navigation on the mobile phone, to true mobile sites. And in the case of 2 restaurants, they're now getting the majority of their traffic is coming from mobile. So, and most of what people are looking for is, well, how do I get there? Yeah. And then we've also taken their menus from PDF format, which was very hard to see on the mobile phone, into the standard app, and created tables for the menus and stuff. So it's now responsive, and they said that made a huge difference with their traffic, and people are ordering ahead of time. They're using it to order takeout. In the case of it's not a Chinese restaurant, but it's a Vietnamese restaurant. They're located near a college, and said they can't keep up.
That's right.
They're about 9:30 every night. They get a run.
So Craig, what I'm hearing, I think I'm hearing, is there is a difference between having a responsive website and a website that is designed specifically for mobile.
A responsive site will adapt to whatever you're looking at it on. Mm-hmm. So if you're looking at it on a desktop, it looks one way. If you're looking at it on a tablet, it looks a different way. And if you're looking at it on a mobile phone, it looks completely different. But it's all one site. You build it once. Mm-hmm. You don't have to deal with. You just choose. In my case, I use WordPress. Mm-hmm. I know that Jay uses Joomla, but Joomla is the same way. You choose the right theme or the right template depending on which platform you're using, and that's all there is to it. Mm. As long as you choose carefully and get one that has everything you need. I use elegant themes for all of my sites. Their flagship product is Divi, and it's just amazing when it comes to mobile adaptability.
That's the theme I use for my own site, and we don't build websites. We're not in the business of building websites, but we've built some for some friends or people that have had them built elsewhere and been really upset with the results. And so we've dipped in and helped, and it's always elegant themes for that very reason. It's responsive, it truly is elegant, and it's easy for the customer to update even from their phones and make those changes right there. And yeah, elegant themes, and specifically Divi is a good one.
All right. So I'm looking at the time. Boy, are we ever over? And there was a message from Jay. He had a connection, a request from a client, so he stepped away and said thanks. So how does everybody feel about really diving in next time and turning it around and say, what are some of the things that we can do that will enhance our client's experience? You think there's enough for us to go in that direction? I know, Larry, we haven't had time to talk about what you're doing, and I know I'm listening to your podcast from my mobile phone. So, I mean, I think there may be some other ways that we could all think about how can we change and enhance our clients' experience using mobile.
That works for me. I mean, that's really what my focus is moving forward. So
let's do that.
Well, we absolutely have to pay attention to mobile. There's no question about it because it's not going away.
No, it isn't.
I don't know.
So, if that's all okay with everybody, I'll post that for next time. And thank you all for participating this morning. I thoroughly enjoyed the discussion. I could go on and on and on, learning about new apps and how they work and all of that. So until next week, this is Lowell Ann Fulsang, Work Style, Lifestyle Coaching and Consulting signing off.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.